Hey everybody, this is Giora Morein, just here making a quick video to tell you about the 7 things you got wrong about Agile. The first one that I hear a lot, the one misconception, is that Agile is just about IT and software, and the truth is that that's where it maybe originated. So extreme programming and Scrum and other of these frameworks may have originated in software and technology, but certainly today Scrum and Kanban and a whole bunch of other Agile frameworks have been applied to virtually everything you can imagine, from manufacturing to designing fighter plane cockpits to marketing, audit, HR, finance, recruiting, and so certainly it's been applied in a number of different areas. There's a bunch of people telling stories and even a TED Talk about applying Agile in the home, and so certainly this is just absolutely not true. The second thing that I hear quite a lot about Agile is that there's little or no planning in Agile, and nothing could be further from the truth. In fact, there's a lot of planning in Agile. There's everything from product visioning to road mapping to release planning to detailed sprint planning or iteration planning, and then even at the daily level, the daily scrum or the daily stand-up really focuses on sort of what our plan is for the day. What is true is that since we expect things to change a lot, we tend to put more effort in planning in short-term plans rather than long-term plans, because we expect them to change. They will change. In fact, we hope they'll change. We hope we'll learn something that will result in us coming up with better plans or better things to work on. And so we certainly don't invest heavily in those plans. In fact, the plans themselves, since situations will change, they're not what's important. What is important, what is valuable, is the planning. Planning is where the value is, and that's what we focus on. The plans themselves, they're pretty disposable. The third thing that sometimes I hear, particularly maybe from executives who are just trying to introduce Agile, is that really Agile is about cost reduction. And as someone who's been doing Agile for quite a while, there's nothing specific in Agile about cost reduction. In fact, if somebody's telling you you're going to sort of reduce cost by doing Agile, they're probably trying to sell you something. So Agile just talks about a different way of thinking about and working on products. There's nothing about cost reduction as a goal. What might be true is, by applying Agile, you might end up zeroing in on the things you absolutely need to work on and avoid the things you don't, which might result in less wasteful work and less wasteful product development. And so you might end up spending less money, or you might end up spending it somewhere else. But from a cost reduction and from an efficiency standpoint, it's really not what Agile is about. Number 4, this one is about as old as time, right? So if you think that there's no documentation in Agile, you've got it wrong. So what is true is we tend to focus on that documentation that is most important. And I think this misconception, this myth, probably comes from just an incorrect reading of sort of the Agile Manifesto, where one of the values is we value working software over comprehensive documentation. And it's true. We do value working product over comprehensive documentation. One of the key terms there is comprehensive. Comprehensive means documenting everything. And so just like we don't build everything, so too we wouldn't document everything. Some things are more valuable to document. Some documentation is more useful, more valuable than others. And so really zeroing in on what's most important, just like we do any other part of our product, is really the key to documenting appropriately. Really, the way to think about documentation is very similar as you would to any other feature you're implementing. So a document should have a well-defined and important user or consumer with a well-defined and important purpose. And so, for the deployment specialist who needs a document as a guide to document how to deploy the application at a customer site, that has a well-defined user with a pretty important purpose, so let's go ahead and create that document. But for the curious person who one day may stumble upon our project repository and is interested in what we did or didn't do, not a well-defined user, not a particularly well-defined or important purpose, so maybe we skip that document. And so by focusing on the most important, yes, we may minimize the documentation we need, but we also keep the documentation sort of more consumable, more functional, and more targeted for the purpose and the person who's going to use them. Another misconception that I hear a lot is that you cannot commit or predict or guarantee what you're going to be delivering, right? It's sort of what you hear sometimes is that in Agile, you get what you get when you get it, and nothing could be further from the truth. We have a lot of visibility on our Agile projects. What is true is we can't predict everything. Again, since we expect things to change, since we hope to discover better things to build, better things to work on, and better things to deliver, we couldn't possibly attempt to predict what we're going to be delivering because we haven't discovered it yet. But those are the things that we'll discover along the way, the most important things, the highest priority things, the most valuable things. Well, since we work on things in order of priority, those highest priority things, we can guarantee those. In fact, the chances are they're probably already complete. Since we work on small batches and the most important items in our backlog till completion, well, then we're most likely going to get those things completed, which means you guarantee their delivery. What we can't guarantee are sort of the lower priority, lower value, less important things, which quite frankly, we hope to replace with better ideas. And so, although we may not be able to predict or commit to everything, we can certainly predict the delivery of the most important things, commit to the delivery of the most important things, and where the uncertainty needs to be managed are those things at the bottom of your backlog, the least important things. Yes, those things we might not be able to predict very accurately, but quite frankly, if you're going to risk delivery of something, the right place to deliver it is at the very bottom of your prioritized list. The things at the very top, we're not risking those at all because they're going to be completed very quickly and certainly more rapidly and sooner than any of the low value items. One thing that most organizations get wrong about Agile, certainly when they first adopted, is they believe Agile is some sort of project methodology or some way to deliver projects. And what you'll quickly discover is that you may start using it on projects, but you'll quickly learn that the implications are much greater. When you start to adopt Agile or any of its frameworks like Scrum or something else, you quickly learn that it affects how we structure teams, how we incentivize individuals, how we reward people, how we govern, how we make decisions, how we apply approvals, what we approve. It affects how we budget for things. It's going to affect sort of how we forecast and how we plan. It affects sort of how we oversee and how we measure performance and how we measure other things. And so you'll quickly learn that the ripple effect of adopting Agile, yes, you may start adopting it, trying to tackle a better way to deliver a project, but you'll quickly realize that it affects pretty much every other part of your organization. And so be prepared. And lastly, probably the number one thing you got wrong about Agile is you thought that there was one right way or one best way, or there's some set of best practices, there's one perfect way to implement Agile. And one of the things I'm here to tell you is that there is no easy pill. There is no easy juice. Quite frankly, there is no such thing as the absolute best way. In fact, I've been around Agile for quite a while now, maybe 16, 17 years, and if there's one thing I've learned is that there are very, very, very few absolutes when it comes to Agile or Scrum. There are very few things that you would always do. There are very, very few things that you would never do. They're just those things that maybe 99% of the time you wouldn't do them, but then there's that one thing in that one environment and that one team trying to solve that one problem for that one customer where that's the exact right thing to do. And so I think the more you explore and take ownership of your process, the more you taste and try different things and see what works, the more you're committed to sort of trial and error and testing ideas, whether they be ideas in your product or ideas in your process, the more you empower people to take ownership of the way they do things so that they can then take ownership of improving the way they do things. You'll realize sort of what is the right way for you to do things. But even then, as your teams mature, as you mature, as your needs change, as your environment changes, so too will the way you implement Agile, and the way you do work is likely going to have to evolve as well. And so remember, there is no one right way. In fact, there are many right ways. You have to figure out what's the right way for you.